Hey everyone, welcome to Relax into Sensuality, your adventure in purity. This is our 7th show, and I'm going to be talking a lot more about sensuality as it relates to others for the duration of my show, the full 12 weeks. Now, I'm going to talk about touch on other days and just different things that will involve like anyone in our lives. So not all of my shows are just going to be about sex, but today is. Today is going to be about sex, and I want to look at the reasons why we say no. And I'm going to try not to go too deep into my story because we all have a story. Your story doesn't have to look like my story in order for you to glean something from my experiences. But I actually have a lot of experience when it comes to healing trauma from sex. So at 5 years of marriage, my husband came to me and shared with me that he had a pornography addiction. And he had had it since he was 9, and I didn't know a thing about it. I buried my head in the sand for like 8 months after he told me that. Just wanting, I think, to pretend like he didn't say what he said and not really knowing what that meant. I just buried my head in the sand, and I slowly over those 8 months came to realize what a pornography addiction really meant. It meant lots of lies, lots of deceit, lots of me thinking he was somewhere when he was actually somewhere else, lots of me thinking he was doing something when he was actually doing something else. And it meant betrayal. It meant he was looking at other women. It meant he was masturbating to other women. It was hell for me. And about the time when my third child was 2 months old, I felt really strongly impressed that I needed to ask my husband to move out. He couldn't stop his addiction. Well, it's an addiction, right? But he couldn't or wouldn't stop lying to me about it. And I couldn't be in a marriage where everything was based on lies. I didn't know what was black or white or up or down or left to right because everything that I thought I knew was different. And we were separated for 6 months. My baby was 2 months old. My son was 2 and my daughter was 4. They were all at home. Nobody was at school yet. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I spent those 6 months crying on my bathroom floor like every day, just trying to figure out what I really wanted in my life. And my husband did the same thing. He spent those 6 months just really ripping himself apart, exposing all his parts that he had hidden, and really trying to decide what he wanted, if he really wanted the life and the family that we had created together. Oh, actually, I have this book right here this is just coincidence, on my nightstand, this super vintage copy of Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, yeah, like that's what I was fighting. I was like fighting all these, like, isn't that a great picture? I was slaying dragons. My husband was slaying dragons. We had to take separate paths because we were slaying separate dragons. I couldn't slay his dragons, and I really wanted to. And I didn't think we would make it back from this. Building back from that has been really hard. And when we talk about reasons to say no to sex, there was a lot of them. There was a ton of them. There still are. This is still a thing for us. 5 years. We've been in recovery for 5 years. I say we because I was recovering from betrayal. We've been in recovery for 5 years, and stuff still comes up for me where I'm still afraid to give myself to him because maybe I'll get hurt again, just like I was before. So all of our trauma is different. Maybe you don't have like an actual story of trauma, or maybe you do, and it's very different from mine, but we all have stuff, and we all have things we're trying to protect our hearts from. And it goes back to my message from my second show about how we are warriors, and if we're still surviving and we're still loving and we're still showing up in this life, it's because we have fought our way to this point. And we have to ask ourselves, do I want to fight against my husband? Like, is that where my fight really matters? Or am I fighting other things? For me now, my biggest fight is fighting the inclination to continually protect myself. My husband's been sober for 2 years. He's been sober for 2 years. There is no guarantee he will relapse again. I am very sure, because he has an addiction, and that's his addiction. Like, he will go back to it. If he doesn't, it will be by a miracle. But he does everything he can not to. And he does everything he can to be aware of his emotions and look for his triggers and yada, yada. So, but I want to protect myself. I don't ever want to experience the amount of pain I experienced during that 6 months, you guys. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. So So this is twofold, because what I realized was that I treated my husband as if he had already done all those things to me before he ever did them. I was apprehensive to be sexual with him. I was scared. I was always trying to protect myself. And as we look at our individual sensuality, again, it's like if we go the whole day saying no to every inclination that we have to experience our physical senses, then when we get with our husbands and we want to create this experience, it's like our immediate answer is no, because we've been putting up our walls all day long. I needed to know with my spouse that I was 100% free to say no at any time. And he has that permission too. He's 100% free to say no at any time. At first, I thought that meant and should look like him being totally happy about it. And I've learned like that's not very realistic. I can't control his emotions. He can't control my emotions. But he can share his emotions with me in a way that doesn't punish me, that there is no consequences involved. And we still are striving for connection. We had a conversation where we said, what's the most important thing to you about sex? Like, what is the most important thing to you about sex? And for my husband and I, we both came up with connection. Bottom line, connection. And if we find ourselves like being distracted or triggered, or maybe we're actually sad and we're realizing like, oh, I've been kind of hiding this sadness or whatever it is, we will stop. We will do whatever we have to, because connection is the goal above anything else. Pleasure is like a second best. It's like second in line, and it's awesome. But ultimately, if we don't have connection, we don't keep going. And that's been really crucial for both of us. And so there is that piece of figuring out with your spouse what is crucial for both of us. What feels so important? Why is it so important? What do we want to experience? And having that conversation, that's been huge for us, being open to have that conversation. But the other side of that, as I was looking at my own individual sensuality and how I embody sensuality, I realized as crucial as it has been for me to be able to say no and be able to create connection in my own sensuality, it has been so crucial for me to recognize that I can tell myself yes to experiencing my senses and the impulses that I have to experience my senses. To be able to say like yes when I want to taste ice cream, or to say yes when I want to jump out and have a dance party, or, some of these things that I've been talking about, they are so related. Our pure childlike self is a fully sensual being. She never told herself no, because the only people who told her no were people on the outside of her, not herself. She never told herself no until she learned to tell herself no. So it's been crucial for me to tell myself yes. And I think as I ponder why that is, I need to know that my body is a vessel for me to experience the world. And my body is not just something to be used as like a service or a tool to bring someone else a great experience with their body. It's also there for me to experience pleasure and joy and fully experience the world, as well as bringing that in with my husband. And then we can create those experiences together. So this week, challenge is check out reasons why you say no. There's so many more reasons. Again, I would love if you would share. If it's way too vulnerable to share, PM me. And I haven't, there's nothing that I haven't heard, because I've been in this recovery world forever. There's nothing that I haven't heard. So, and then check in with yourself on, so reasons why you say no to your spouse, and then reasons why you say no to yourself, to your own inclinations, to be a sensual being and to experience your senses. And I think there's some freedom to be found in this. And I know that as I've done this hard work, I so have a desire to share the gems in a tactful and pure way with my husband's permission, to share some of the gems that we've learned through the agony that we've gone through. Because building back from that kind of betrayal has not been easy. But if we could help anyone, just one person, to not have to experience, one couple to not have to experience so much agony as we have in their journey to their own sensuality, and to have that connection with each other, then it's worth it. It's all worth it. Okay, can't wait to hear from you.